Why don't we talk about the known 1.5 million slaves? The minimum, I mean, it could be 3, 4 times higher, that was stolen by Africans from Europe. How many people from Hungary, Bulgaria, from Poland, from Denmark, from the UK, from Ireland, from Greenland, from Iceland was stolen, taken by Muslims, taken to Africa as sex slaves? Loads of them, over a million, right? And this happened over hundreds of years. They as someone mentioned earlier, the coastlines of many countries, like Italy's coastline, was barren for like 400 years because slave traders would come in and steal people. They'd steal whole villages, right? So people avoided living on the coast. I'm a warrior. Welcome. Zahar says the Zulu enslaved the Bantus. The Ashanti sold the enslaved to the slave trade. So where do we start? Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's point some fingers. I mean, if we're going to be doing this, let's just be consistent across the board. I mean, people don't realize like the okay, so I can't remember the name of the tribe, but the Fengu. So there's the Koza, right? Nelson Mandela comes from the Koza tribe. They enslaved the Fengu, as an example, right? Why aren't you talking about how Nelson Mandela's tribe was slave owners, right? Carol B says Black Americans still think most enslaved Africans went to North America, whereas it was something like 3%. It's like what they know. Teachers don't teach the truth. That's the truth, Carol B, right? Teachers lie because, I mean, these colleges are churning out 95% crazy leftists, insane leftists. So Rafe does ask, where are the protests outside the Nigerian High Commission for their slavery? Where is it? Where are the protests outside the embassy of Niger, which has, he says today, 800,000 slaves? Now, that other article said 130,000. Well, these estimates are all going to be lowballing it because, well, you don't want to say the truth because that would be racist, right? So Ishan says, we don't talk about the victims of Muslim slave trade because they're all castrated. No one left to cry about it. Yes, you don't have to pay reparations to people that are dead. Big brain move, yes. And he's Conociendo al Islam says even Mexicans took slaves from other tribes. People talk about the North American Indians, okay? The North American Indians were big time slave traders. They were genocidal maniacs. They were violent, territorial, genocidal, warlike slave traders. That is your North American Indian history. Look it up. These were not nice people in tune with nature, with the one spirit. No, they were violent slavers. They took sex slaves. Right? They abused women, children, murdered men. They murdered whole villages. They killed over territory. So yeah, we're sold the story that only white people bad, and yeah, I don't buy it. So Tony says there are no protests because it is easier to protest in your own country than to abolish slavery on another continent. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's people are not being honest. Shaka Hollywood Hollywood made 2 movies about Shaka Zulu portraying their primitive warfare, superior warlord threat to the British Empire. Yeah, well, Shaka Zulu, he was the Hitler of Southern Africa at the time. Trust me, the man was. I should do a talk about that. I have some facts on it. It's just insane. The guy was just. He was just another. He was the Pol Pot of the era. He murdered half the population of what is today South Africa. Between him and Mzilikazi, I think they murdered half, 2 million people of a territory that had 4 million people. Between him and his buddy, who were competing, they murdered 2 million people. You know who stopped it? Those nasty white people would have stopped it. Okay, so a lot of black people are alive because the white people stopped the black people from murdering the black people, but we can't talk about that, can we? Let's see. Carol says Sacagawea was a captive of the tribe she was living with. Okay, interesting. And actually first legalized, according to Zahar, according to what I've discovered, yeah, the first legalized slave owner in the US was a black person. That's what did the Israelites do in Egypt? Well, they were slaves, right? So yeah, they were slaves. Ray Johnson says African nations often crashed after the Western countries stopped slavery. Yes, because their economies relied on slavery. Many of the African kingdoms relied heavily on the proceeds of the slave trade. Correct, Your Highness. Welcome, Your Highness. It's the same as the Americas Indians. They slaughtered not long before the white men even got to the Americas. Yes, they were slaughterers in chief. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Even Northern American tribes bought African slaves from the Europeans. Interesting. Yeah, so it's not the Europeans' people's fault that Native Americans were anti-vax, sneezes wiped them out, not guns. Like, people try to claim that this was deliberate. I mean, white people also died from local diseases. I mean, it's just, I mean, just anything that can turn into an accusation, they will. Doesn't matter how false it is. Freedom of expression says slavery is still practiced in Kuwait and other Middle Eastern countries. Yes, I've been to Kuwait. 2012, Stephen says, let the truth out. So I'm aware, says there's still black-white feeling. Look, South Africa's on a decline, a very steep decline. There's a sense of despair in the country. When I was at home, I mean, it's changed. It's changed, and yeah, definitely not the place that I lived in before. Okay, to continue, what about Mali, Chad, Sudan, and Cameroon? Plenty of slaves there. Okay, it's almost as if there's an ulterior motive behind the call for apologies and reparations. Call it cha-ching, 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 free money, exclusively from Britain and the USA, right? Now, let's look at the Barbary white slavers, because these guys need to pay up. I happen to agree. They need to pay up. So Northern Africans, you guys need to pay up a little bit here, because man, oh man, the Barbary slaves, they ignored traffic in white people by Africans. That's interesting that, yeah, well, why are we ignoring this? I mean, if slavery is bad, okay, so as we know, these are famous pictures of white slavery. Let me just take this away. Let me just go back here. So we've all seen this, the Barbary slaves, they ignored traffic in white people by Africans. Is that okay? I mean, is someone going to tell me, yes, white slavery is just fine, it's just okay? You know, but if black people do it, it's all fine. Let's see. So how far should we take this specious idea, this really legally dubious idea for reparations? Should Britain seek reparations for the Barbary slaves? I say yes. I say absolutely positively yes. Why did the Marines get founded? Because of the Barbary slave trade, because the Muslims were, because of the Quran, because of what they said was in the Quran, were attacking American ships. They were taking prisoners, they were taking slaves, they were taking money, they were plundering. That's why the Marines were started. America's first war was against the Muslim jihadists. Okay, to the shores of Tripoli. Well, slave traders. 1 million Europeans at the same time as Africans were going over the Atlantic, were enslaved by the Ottoman states of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. I'll say that again. 1 million Europeans at the same time as Africans were going over the Atlantic. Now, don't forget, we're looking at 350,000 to maybe 500,000 blacks that went west to North America, 15 million to South America.